And today we're gonna do something. Look, we're all on a budget. Food is very expensive right now. I work in a restaurant, and I work in the restaurant industry. I know the insane prices of food right now. So I'm going to introduce to you something that's college kids eat, punk rockers used to eat. When I myself was living in the flop houses and couch surfing, this would get me through. I happen to call it Ramones Ramen. Now, one of my favorite chefs is Anthony Bourdain, obviously, and one of my favorite bands is the Ramones. And I've heard several interviews and read several books about them, and they would say ramen with just like any type of vegetable or protein, was what they got them through, because they were so poor that all they could afford was packaged ramen. So anyhow, this is one that I came up with myself, but basically we're just going to have your ramen packet, an egg, which I know is priced right now, a scallion, and some hot sauce. So now there's a huge debate on packaged ramen. Do we put the noodles in first and then add this flavoring packet? I disagree. I have to say I am from you put the flavor packet in first. That is my mentality, and I think it goes a heck of a lot better. I can say hell on the show, yeah. Sorry, it's the Mormon in me. So I say hecka. So we're just going to put the flavoring packet in there first. Get the nice broth going on. And I'm just going to gripe for a second about how peasant food is being hijacked by the upper class. Look, ramen was a peasant dish. You had your starches, and you had a broth, and then, if you're lucky, you had vegetables and or proteins to throw in there. So we're going to just drop the brick in there like that. And now it's just like you go to certain ramen places, and it's like $80 for a bowl of broth and noodles and vegetables. So while that is cooking, I'm just going to sit here and chop a scallion and sit here and chit-chat your ear off for a little bit more. Now, scallions are another wonderful thing to have on hand as well. The flavor is very subtle, but it goes a long, long way. So what I like to do, and scallions are very cheap actually. They're very inexpensive. You can grow them on your balcony if need be. This knife needs to be sharpened. So I'm going to throw some of these green stalks in here as well, just a little bit for flavor, and retain some of these for on top for a little bit more snap at the end. Going to crank up the heat on the ramen here really quick. But it's just I'd really like to one of these days do a little what I'm trying to say, a little rant about how peasant food has now become the food of the rich. I mean, you think about French cuisine. After the French Revolution, those of you who know your history, French Revolution was a very bad situation. And so the economy was devastated. All the farms had been burned down. So what did they do? Well, they went out and they gathered snails. And then what did they do? Cook them in garlic and butter, because that's all they had. And voila, escargot. So anyhow, and they're already starting to break up. And I prefer the long noodles personally, rather than the short noodles. So what I'm going to try to do is make myself a little pocket in between the noodles. And that is where we're going to crack the incredible edible egg. Never crack your egg on the side of a pan, always crack it on a flat surface. Just going to drop that in there like so. Perfect. And we're just going to sit here and let that boil, let that poach for 2-3 minutes or so, not too terribly long. Well, it depends on how you like the hardness of your egg. If you're a hard-boiled egg fan, let it cook for like 5. If you like poached eggs, like myself, you want about 3-4 minutes. If you like them dippy fried and runny, then just drop it in and take it out. I remember people would actually crack raw eggs on top. Some of the punk guys I hung out with would actually crack raw eggs and put it in their ramen. But at the same time, it did cook because, it was hot broth. And another way you can do it as well, if you don't like the poached egg, you can get an egg, whisk it up with a fork, and just kind of drizzle it in and stir the ramen around like an egg drop soup. Yeah, I've tried that a couple of times. Not necessarily my favorite. I think it makes it a little too squishy for my palate. But I do prefer the poached egg rather than the egg drop soup. But I do love egg drop soup.
5 minutes later.
All right, and so we have our Ramones Ramen. basically your store packaged top ramen, you know, the stuff that was used to be, you know, 10 cents a packet, just with a poached egg. So anyway, I'm just going to set the poached egg over here with some, you know, a little bit noodles with it. It's fine. Then I'm going to scoop out the broth. Noodles like so. Then we're just going to slide the poached egg back on top. A few scallions like so. And then, just because punk rockers are punk rockers, you have to add just a couple of dashes of your favorite hot sauce. Just a couple on top like that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Ramones Ramen. Brought to you by the punks and all the losers of the world. Again, one of my favorite chefs, Anthony Bourdain, punk rock chef, rest in peace. And one of my favorite bands, the Ramones. This was inspired by what they would talk about, what they had to eat when they were poor in New York City. So, anyway, try it out. Hope you enjoy. Good eating, folks.
Oh, that was so good.